My knuckles turned white as I gripped the kitchen counter, the cool marble pressing against my palms. I could feel the blood draining from my fingertips as Celia delivered the news with the same casual tone she might use to comment on the weather. "It'll just be family at Caleb's graduation," she said, lifting her teacup to her lips. Steam curled upward, disappearing into nothing. Just like my invitation, apparently. "Family," I repeated, the word hollow in my mouth. Celia didn't look up from her phone as her thumbs danced across the screen. "Myra's coming down from Portland. We thought it would be less awkward if you weren't there." Less awkward. 20 years of building this house, this life, this family, and my presence would make things awkward. I opened my mouth to object when Caleb sauntered into the kitchen. His headphones hung around his neck, tinny music escaping into the room as he made a beeline for the fruit bowl. His eyes met mine briefly before flicking away. "Hey, Dad." He grabbed an apple, inspecting it before taking a bite. The crunch echoed in the silent kitchen. "Did your mom tell you I'm not invited to your graduation?" I tried to keep my voice steady, searching his face for some sign of disagreement, some indication that this wasn't his idea too. Caleb shrugged, chewing thoughtfully. "It's just a ceremony, Dad. Don't take it personally." He glanced at his watch. "I gotta go. Meeting Jade at the mall." He was out the door before I could respond, the screen door slamming behind him like a period at the end of a very short sentence. I turned back to Celia, who was now texting her sister Mira. The sister who was welcome at our son's graduation. Unlike me. "So that's it? I'm just uninvited?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. Celia sighed, finally setting down her phone. "Malcolm, please don't make this difficult. It's what's best for everyone." Best for everyone. I had been at every science fair, every baseball game, every driving lesson. I had helped him practice his college application essays, had taught him to tie a tie. I was there when he got his wisdom teeth removed and spent 3 days looking like a chipmunk, when he had his first heartbreak, when he needed to learn how to change a tire at 2 in the morning. But now, for his graduation, one of the most significant milestones of his life, I was suddenly excess baggage. "Fine," I said quietly. "If that's what you both want." Relief washed over Celia's face. She hadn't expected me to give in so easily. "Thank you," she said, reaching for her phone again as it buzzed with another message. "Mira says she can bring those pastries you like." How considerate of her. I stood there for a moment longer, waiting for something. An explanation. An apology. A change of heart. But Celia was already absorbed in her conversation with Mira, and Caleb was gone, racing off to meet his girlfriend without a backward glance. I moved through the kitchen like a ghost, pouring myself a cup of coffee I didn't want, staring out the window at the yard I had landscaped myself. The treehouse I had built when Caleb was 7 still stood in the old oak, weathered but sturdy. The flower beds I planted when we first moved in were blooming with spring colors. 20 years of my life poured into these walls, this land, these people. And now I was the uninvited guest in my own home. I took a sip of coffee that had gone cold. The bitterness matched the feeling spreading through my chest. Not anger exactly. Something deeper. Something final. The house settled around me, creaking and sighing like it knew something I didn't. Or perhaps it was simply acknowledging what I had known for a long time but hadn't wanted to face. The people I had given everything to had nothing left to give me in return. Upstairs, I could hear Celia moving around our bedroom, probably picking out what she would wear to the graduation I wouldn't attend. The graduation where she and Mira would beam with pride, take photos, celebrate our son's achievement. Without me. I set my mug in the sink with a quiet clink. Neither of them noticed as I left the kitchen, climbing the stairs one by one, each step heavier than the last. The wood beneath my feet groaned as if sharing my burden. I had built this house, but it wasn't mine anymore. Maybe it never truly had been. Each step up the stairs felt like climbing a mountain. My legs were lead, my chest tight. When I reached our bedroom, I stood in the doorway for a moment, suddenly a stranger in my own space. I crossed to the closet and pulled down the old duffel bag from the top shelf, the one Lewis and I took on fishing trips before life got too busy. Dust clung to its faded canvas, a reminder of simpler times. My hands moved on autopilot, grabbing clothes and toiletries. I wasn't even sure where I was going, just that I couldn't stay here among these walls that had witnessed my slow erasure. I sat heavily on the edge of the bed, the mattress sinking beneath my weight. The realization hit me like a wave. I didn't have to stay. There was nothing holding me here but habit and hope had just been crushed under Celia's casual dismissal. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow illuminating my face in the dimming room. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing, Last-minute vacation destinations. The images loaded slowly as if giving me time to reconsider. And then I saw it, Santorini. White buildings with blue domes cascading down cliffs, endless sea stretching to the horizon, the promise of anonymity. 3 clicks later, I had a one-way ticket for tomorrow morning. My phone buzzed with Ellie's name from work. I silenced it without answering. What would I tell her anyway? That I was abandoning my life because my family had abandoned me first? I should leave a note for Celia and Caleb, explain my sudden departure. But what would I say that they would actually hear? I closed the laptop, decision made. I'd be gone before they woke up. No explanations, no apologies. Just gone, like I already was to them. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The drive to the airport played like a broken record in my mind. Celia's voice, "It'll be less awkward if you weren't there," and Caleb's casual dismissal, "It's just a ceremony, Dad," echoed with every mile marker I passed. By the time I settled into my seat on the plane, I felt as though I was physically leaving them behind. Not just their presence but the weight of their expectations, their disappointment, their indifference. The sensation was dizzying. First time to Greece? The woman next to me smiled politely. First time anywhere in a long time, I replied, surprising myself with my honesty. As the plane lifted off, a strange lightness filled my chest. For the first time in decades, I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. No one was waiting for me to fix something, pay for something, or be the invisible support beam holding everything together. When I landed on Santorini hours later, the warm air hit me like a welcome. It smelled of salt and possibilities. The taxi wound its way along cliff-hugging roads, each turn revealing views more stunning than the last. The villa was better than the photos. Small, simple, with a stone terrace that seemed to hang over the edge of the world. I kicked off my shoes the moment I was inside, padding barefoot onto the sun-warmed stone. The silence was absolute. No demands, no disappointments, no pretending. I grabbed a beer from the well-stocked refrigerator and settled into a weathered wooden chair. The sea stretched before me, endless blue meeting endless sky. I took a photo, my feet, the beer, the view, and posted it with the caption, "Silence suits me." My phone immediately pinged with a comment from Lewis and a message from Ellie at work. I turned the phone face down on the table. Let them wonder. I was done explaining. By my 3rd day on Santorini, I had settled into a rhythm of silence. I woke with the sun, made coffee, and carried it to the edge of the small infinity pool where I could watch the world awaken without having to participate. The silence was broken only by my phone, buzzing, ringing, demanding attention like a neglected child. I glanced at the screen. 125 missed calls. Celia. Caleb. Mira. Texts asking where I was, when I was coming back. How could I do this to them? I scrolled through them with detached curiosity, the same way I might observe fish in an aquarium. Their panic felt distant, as if happening to someone else entirely. Not my circus, not my monkeys, as Lewis would say. I set the phone down and leaned back in my chair. The Mediterranean stretched before me, a canvas of blues that shifted with the light. I took a long pull from my beer, too early for drinking by normal standards, but normal standards had been left on the other side of the ocean. There was a profound relief in not being needed. 4 years I had been the glue, paying bills, mediating arguments, driving Caleb to practices, performances, appointments. I had been the shadow that made their spotlight possible. How exhausting it had been, always waiting, always chasing, always being the one they only noticed when they needed something fixed. The phone buzzed again. I turned it face down without looking. Whatever chaos they were experiencing could wait. I had waited for 2 decades, they could manage a few days. I closed my eyes, feeling the sun warm my face. This was what I needed, not their frantic calls, but this moment of stillness where the only person I had to worry about was myself. The chaos back home could burn without me. I was too busy learning how to breathe again. That evening when my phone rang again I almost ignored it. But seeing Lewis's name made me pause. My brother never called unless it mattered. I answered. "Well, look who's alive," Lewis chuckled, his voice warm even across thousands of miles. "You picked one hell of a week to disappear, Mal." "What do you mean?" I settled deeper into my chair, watching stars emerge over the darkening sea. The graduation was a disaster. He didn't bother hiding his amusement. After the ceremony, there was this brunch thing at some overpriced restaurant. Everyone was there, Celia's parents, Mira, even that ancient professor Caleb worships. I took a sip of wine waiting. Then Caleb's ex-girlfriend showed up. Walked right in and threw a folder on the table. Said she had evidence he'd been cheating on her with some girl from his economics class. My stomach tightened. Evidence? Messages, photos. Pretty damning stuff. Louis paused. Caleb flipped a chair and stormed out. Celia tried to maintain her Ice Queen composure, but man, it was ugly. I could picture it perfectly. The stunned silence, Myra's dramatic tears about family unity, Celia's frozen smile. The best part? Louis continued. They all kept looking around like they expected you to appear and fix everything. Celia even said, if Malcolm were here, this wouldn't have happened. The words should have satisfied me, vindication that they needed me after all. Instead I felt oddly calm. What would I have fixed, Louis? Caleb made his choices. That's what I told them. But they're still expecting you to swoop in and make everything better. I watched a boat's lights glimmer on the horizon. Not my job anymore. Louis was quiet for a moment. Good for you, Mel. About damn time. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness, realizing how liberating it felt to not be responsible for cleaning up their messes. For once, their problems would remain their own. On my fourth day, I woke late, Louis's call still echoing in my mind. I made coffee and carried it to the terrace, noting with surprise that my phone had stopped its incessant buzzing. The silence felt both welcome and strangely unsettling. When I finally checked my phone, I found an email from Celia. No pleasantries, just 5 cold words. You've made your point. Come home. Not, I miss you, or I'm sorry. Just a command, as if I were a disobedient dog that had strayed too far. Then a text from Caleb appeared. Dad, I'm sorry. I messed everything up. Please call. I stared at these messages, feeling anger rise at Celia's presumption and an unexpected resistance to Caleb's plea. They had pushed me away until they needed me. Now they expected me to come running back to fix their problems. I set my phone down without responding and decided to hike the volcanic trails instead of sitting with my thoughts. The path wound up through rugged terrain, each step carrying me further from their demands. As I climbed, I thought about all the times they had forgotten me, my birthday dinner canceled for Caleb's last-minute study session, Celia's silence when I was passed over for partner at the firm, the day I built the deck and neither of them said thank you. By the time I returned to the villa, sweaty and clear-headed, I didn't bother checking my phone again. That evening, I sat on the terrace with a glass of local wine, watching fishing boats return to harbor. The simple rhythms of island life had already reset something within me. I wasn't ready to return to their demands, their expectations, their selective memory of my importance. This wasn't about punishing them anymore, it was about finding my own worth outside of their needs. For once I was putting myself first, and it felt right. On my 5th day, seeking a change of scenery, I ventured to the black sand beach on the eastern side of the island. The volcanic pebbles were hot under my feet, almost uncomfortable but somehow grounding. I noticed her immediately, a woman sitting alone beneath a striped parasol, writing in a leather-bound journal. Something about her solitude mirrored my own, yet seemed chosen rather than forced. Is this spot taken? I gestured to the empty sand beside her parasol's shade. She looked up, her eyes deep brown against olive skin, laugh lines crinkling at the corners. It is now, she said, her accent a melodic blend of French and something else. I'm Malcolm, I offered, settling onto the warm sand. Sabine, she replied, closing her journal. Half French, half Spanish, full-time wanderer and occasional writer. She reached into a small cooler and produced a tiny bottle of white wine in 2 plastic cups. A toast to fellow escapees? I accepted the cup with a genuine smile, my first in longer than I could remember. How do you know I'm escaping? The way you look at the horizon, she said simply. Like you're measuring the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. The wine was crisp and cool. Sabine poured more as the afternoon stretched on. She told me about her grown children scattered across Europe. They no longer need me, she said without bitterness. So I've had to learn to need myself. I found myself telling her about fishing trips with Louis, about architecture, about dreams I'd forgotten I had. I didn't mention Celia or Caleb. My phone rang several times but I never checked it. With Sabine I felt seen without having to beg for attention. As darkness fell, she gathered her things. I'll be here tomorrow, she said matter-of-factly. If you want to talk again. I watched her walk away, her silhouette melting into the dusk, feeling lighter than I had in years. My 6th morning dawned clear and bright. I sipped coffee on the terrace, thoughts drifting between Sabine's perceptive words and my family's absence. How easily she had seen me when those who should know me best had looked right through me for years. Finally, I played Celia's latest voicemail. If you had been there, Caleb wouldn't have lost control. Her voice was tight, accusatory. This is your fault, Malcolm. Her words ignited something in me, Not guilt, but fury. They wanted me there not when it mattered to me but only when everything fell apart. I paced the length of the terrace, memories flooding back. Celia scheduling an anniversary dinner then canceling when her friend needed her. Caleb asking for help with college applications then telling me my suggestions were outdated. Family vacations where I drove, carried luggage, and planned activities while they complained. The pattern was suddenly, painfully clear. It wasn't my absence that broke them, it was their dismissal of me when I was present. I deleted Celia's message with a decisive tap. The afternoon sun beat down as I poured another glass of wine, remembering Sabine's words about freedom. It's terrifying at first, and then it's everything. This wasn't about them anymore, it was about me. About seeing myself the way Sabine had seen me, a complete person, not just a utility. I stretched out on the lounge chair, watching fishing boats cut white trails across the blue expanse. For so long, I had waited in the wings of my own life, understudying roles I never got to play, the appreciated husband, the respected father. But here, under the vast Greek sky, I was finally center stage. No more waiting for cues, for permission to exist. For the first time I felt no regret, no doubt about my decision to leave. Only a growing certainty that I had been right to go. I was done being their ghost. On my 7th morning, my last on Santorini, I sat on the terrace with my half-packed suitcase waiting inside. The coffee had grown cold in my hands as I finally allowed myself to scroll through the missed calls. So many voices demanding my return, my help, my presence, now that they needed it. I hesitated over Caleb's last voicemail, thumb hovering above the play button. Something in me wasn't ready to hear his excuses. But I pressed play anyway. Dad. His voice was rough, smaller than I remembered. I really messed up. I miss you. Those 4 words, I miss you, Dad, hit me with unexpected force. Not, I need you to fix this, or, when are you coming home? Just the simple admission that my absence was felt. I closed my eyes, remembering Caleb as a child, gap-toothed and earnest, asking me to check for monsters under the bed. The memory stirred something in me, a connection I couldn't deny despite everything. But it wasn't enough to make me rush back to smooth everything over. I recorded my response carefully. I hear you, son. I'm not coming back to fix this. When you're ready to talk to me like a man, not a victim, call me. I'll be around. I powered off my phone and finished packing, feeling strange finality as I zipped the bag closed. Taking one last walk through the villa, I touched the stone walls that had witnessed my transformation. This island had given me clarity and strength I hadn't known I possessed. As the taxi wound down to the airport, I watched the sea disappear behind me. I felt lighter, having left something behind, the part of me that waited, that begged to be seen, that accepted less than I deserved. That Malcolm was gone. The man in his place was ready for whatever came next, even if it meant rebuilding everything from scratch. I arrived home late in the evening to find the house dark and silent. As I flipped on the lights, I noticed immediately that things were different. Celia's decorative pillows were gone from the couch. The vase she'd brought back from Italy had vanished from the entryway table. Her shoes, always neatly lined by the door, were missing. She had left, and the realization didn't cut as deeply as I'd expected. I moved through the house, taking inventory. The kitchen was bare, cleaned out of all the little touches that had made it Celia's domain. Upstairs, Caleb's room was similarly emptied, clothes and posters gone, leaving behind only furniture and shadows. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I found my graduation suit hanging in the closet. I'd bought it specifically to see Caleb walk across the stage. I took it out and packed it away in a box, whether for donation or trash I hadn't decided. The next morning I turned on my phone. No messages from either Celia or Caleb. The silence felt less like punishment and more like permission. I registered for a hiking group, wanting to maintain the sense of life I'd found on Santorini's rocky paths. Then I spent the day cleaning, making the house less theirs and more mine. I moved furniture, took down family photos, put up art I'd always liked but Celia had dismissed as too abstract. That evening, I cooked myself a steak, set the table with a candle, and ate alone without feeling empty. As I lay in bed that night, I realized that the man who had left this house a week ago was gone. The angry, invisible man who waited for scraps of acknowledgement. The man who returned was different, steadier, more certain, more alive. Ready to meet tomorrow as himself, not as their shadow. Whatever came next, reconciliation, divorce, a new relationship with my son, I would face it standing tall, no longer diminished by their inattention. For the first time in decades I was enough.